You were quoted as saying the majority of Americans want us to get our troops out of Iraq as quickly as possible without leaving chaos behind.
That's right.
How do we do that?
Well, we just voted, 75 United States senators voted for the Biden plan, which says that we're going to bring in the rest of the world to put pressure on the neighbors to allow the Iraqi Constitution to work, which means you give local control in Iraq. You let the local people control their local police forces, and you don't try to continue to try to put together this one big central government that controls everything in Iraq. You have a united Iraq. It's called a federal system. And that's the way we can leave, end the Civil War, because the Civil War will cease if that occurs, and allow us to come home without leaving chaos behind, because there'd be no reason for them to be killing each other.
We don't want to leave chaos behind. Do we leave any troops behind under your plan?
In my plan, we'll leave troops behind in the same way we did in Bosnia if there's a political settlement. If the shooting is actually stopped and they need stabilizing forces like they did in Bosnia, where we've had 20,000 troops, NATO troops, and American troops there, and not one has been killed in 10 years. But I will withdraw every troop as president if there's no political settlement, because I'll not use American troops as fodder for their civil war.
You scored a lot of points with Iowans at the AARP Healthcare Forum just by pointing out how ludicrous some of the things are in our healthcare system. As president, do you think you could change those things? What would you do?
I really do think I could, and I think it's more, the old expression, it's not the plan, it's the man or the woman. What we can do is there's an overwhelming consensus in red states and blue states we need a new healthcare system. Even American business now realizes we need a universal healthcare system. They can't compete. So the first thing I would do is immediately provide catastrophic insurance for everybody. I would insure every child. You can get a consensus to do that. That would drive down the cost companies are paying for insurance, take pressure off employees, and then I would allow everyone in America to buy into the federal health care plan we have. Senators, congressmen, federal employees, and I'd allow them to buy in a sliding scale. So poor folks would get in free. People who could afford it would pay like everybody else pays to get in the system.
How much does that cost? Where do the funds come from?
Well, the cost would be the first two things are the big cost. And they would cost $27 billion to insure every child. It would cost about $35 billion to provide catastrophic health insurance, which is the reason why premiums go up so high for companies. And that would come from just eliminating the tax cut for the top 1%, which is $85 billion a year. And if we end the war in Iraq, it's $120 billion. We have plenty of money to draw down the debt and do things if we fundamentally change our priorities.
You have a history of being concerned about education, especially for very young kids. And I know you have said that you think we're missing an opportunity in this country even before preschool. Explain
Absolutely.
that.
Look, Polly, who I'm here for today, is the second highest ranking woman in the state. She taught for 30-some years. My wife is a teacher. Ask anybody who teaches. They'll tell you three things. Start kids at school earlier, smaller classes, better paid teachers to attract the brightest kids coming out of college, and access to college. And the early piece of this is, it costs a lot of money, but less than 1 month in the war in Iraq. For $9.2 billion a year, we can triple the number of students who are able to go into early Head Start, meaning age 3 to quality preschool, and double Head Start. And what we know is, you start a child in school at age 3 from a disadvantaged family, they have a 25% chance better of graduating from high school than you chart them at age 6. So we know what to do. And again, quote my dad, don't tell me what you value, show me your budget. It's a much better use of our money, $9 billion a year, than $10 billion a month in Iraq.
All of us who are here are very proud of our heritage. Yours Irish, if I'm not mistaken.
That's true, Irish and French.
But immigration has changed so much since the days when our relatives came to this country. Do you see solutions? Everyone talks about a stronger border. We have National Guard troops. We have fences going up. What's Joe Biden do?
Joe Biden does three things. Back when Joe Biden was running this piece from the Judiciary Committee, I suggested we double the Border Patrol. We need to be able to protect our borders. That doesn't mean we don't want immigration. We have to protect our borders from well beyond immigration, number one. Number two, we have to make sure people understand the facts. The facts are that 60% of the people who are here are people who are here illegally, undocumented. They don't speak Spanish. They're not coming from below the border. They're coming from all over the world. And so it's more than just protecting that border. It's protecting our ports. And the third thing we have to do is and where I get in trouble, as President of the United States, as Chairman of the Foreign Relations Committee now, I put much more pressure on Mexico. It's the second wealthiest country in the world. And as long as there's in the hemisphere, as long as there's discrepancies of 5, 10, 15, 20 to 1 with what a poor family can do in Mexico and here, they're going to climb over a fence or under a bridge no matter what to get here.
Give them a reason to stay.
You got to give them a reason to stay. And I would say to the Mexican government, look, you need our cooperation in 1,000 things. We can't set your policy, but you better get squared away, and you better provide opportunity for the poorest among you, because it's our problem.
The News Journal in Delaware, which you're very familiar with, said that you occupy the center, the logical center, I think they said, of the Democratic Party. Do you find that that's what resonates for you in Iowa, or what is it that brings you supporters like we're seeing tonight and like you've seen all across this state? What is it that resonates with them?
You know, it's hard for me to say no, but I think it's that people know what I think I say, and I'm straight with them. I think people are ready. I'm not sure I would have been viable 8 years ago or 12 years ago, but people are looking for straight up the truth. The American people aren't afraid. They can handle any problem you send them. You got to tell them the facts. And I hope part of the reason why I'm getting increasing support here is people know that I mean what I say, and there's going to be no difference between what I say as a candidate in a primary and what I'll do as president.
Last question for you, and that is there anything else that you think Iowans need to know about you before they go to caucus night? Is there anything that you don't get a chance to talk about? Is there anything else that you think they really need to know about Joe Biden?
I think Iowans, like all people voting for president, want to know more about your personal life. I think they want to know about your character. Not everybody, most Democrats know my role in the crime bill and on the courts and in foreign policy. But they don't know much about who I am. I have to sort of reintroduce myself. That I've been a single parent. I raised kids. I've been married to my second wife after my first was killed for 30 years. That I'm going through the same things they go through. I had to sell my house to pay college tuitions, like a lot of people do. Not a sacrifice. I moved down. My kids were out. I moved to a smaller house. I understand how tough it is for their hospital bills. My hospital bills in the day's numbers were over $1 million. I had 2 cranial aneurysms. I was hospitalized for 7 months. So the point is, I think the American people and the people of Iowa want to know what they used to know about the Democratic Party. Not only do we have the right answers, but we understand, we know. I know what it's like for your father to look in the eye, looking like he's been shot, saying, "I'm sorry, pal, I'm sorry, I can't borrow the money to get you to college." You know, so I think that if people understand more about my life, more about who I am, my background, it doesn't mean they'll vote for me, but they'll either be more or less comfortable with me. And I think Iowans don't finally make that judgment until they get a sense of who you are. Are you married? Do you have kids? What are your views? Like, for example, I'm surprised that so many Iowans are stunned when I tell them, when they find out I commuted every day for the last 34 years, 250 miles a day. I don't have a home in Washington. I never lived in Washington. I commute 200. But the reason I go home is the same reason they do. To see my kids, in the morning, to kiss them goodbye. With no Ozzie and Harriet stuff, just normal kind of family. And I think the more people know about us, the more they make a judgment about whether what else we say is true or real or is believable.
Senator, thanks for your time.
Well, thank you. I appreciate the time.